Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show, it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Cleaning Lady. Obviously, in the aftermath of last episode, Marco is here in the U.S., in particular with Luca, Fee, and Tony. But obviously, the complicated conversation is about Luca. Well, first and foremost, the fact is that he's like, oh, like, we're finally alone. We haven't been alone together forever, and it seems like you're kind of pushing me away. I think there's a little bit of the thing of, like, she has feelings for Armand, but it also seems like their relationship is complicated. He's like, right, before you left, like, back in the Philippines, like, we were good, or at least we were getting better. And she's like, yeah, but we were still sleeping in separate beds. And he was like, not all the time, which I guess it makes Tony kind of regretted it a little bit because it makes her like, she probably set boundaries, and it's like anytime they slept together, it kind of muddied that water probably between those boundaries. But obviously we know about his gambling addiction. We don't know if there is anything else. I mean, a gambling addiction is already bad enough considering the circumstances. I mean, the episode plays out the way it does simply because of that, but I think there's other contributing factors to it as well. But obviously there's also the conversation of Fee saying, like, I don't want to keep lying to my brother, so you're going to have to tell him the truth. Which she tells him part of the truth, because she tells him about Armand, just not the Garrett of it all. So that's definitely an interesting thing. And it's not just Tony that's got these complicated feelings, because even Armand does, too, to the point that he's looking at a singer and all he has on his mind is Tony. So it isn't just a thing of like, oh, you're just a means to an end to me. It's like, no, he legitimately does like her, because I think he does see so much of himself like someone who is struggling, who's just kind of, circumstances have kind of put you in a position where you don't have all the power. And that's why he is where he is right now, why he decided to work with Hayek, is because he needed power so that no one could ever take advantage of him again, that he would always be the powerful person in the situation. So when he looks at Tony, when he sees how desperate she is to help Luca, it's like, he sees that struggle and he wants to help, just like he wanted to help his father, he wants to help this mother who's trying to help her child. So, but upon her talking about Marco, like her husband's back in the picture, his plan was probably always to go back to Nadia. It was never like, oh, we're done, but it's like, right, he's got his plan. He's going to sell some guns to a guy named Noah, which, interesting enough, just saw that dude in, obviously, like, he played, what's his character's name? Scott Anderson in, Bosch. But also just saw him in Ozark. So I'm like, man, that dude, like, you just see him in a ton of stuff from time to time. So I thought that was just kind of interesting. Just like the timing was just interesting because I just saw him in Ozark. So, but selling the guns to him. And so it's like, cool, we're going to sell those guns for $6 million. And then we're going to take that and go to that island we saw. And there we could go legitimate, like build like hotel and stuff. Like we can have a good life because $6 million, because I was about to say in the grand scheme of things, I'm like $6 million, don't get it twisted, that's a lot of money, but like in the criminal world of just disappearing, that's not a lot of money. Because usually a final score is like, oh my god, it's like 500 million. Like you think it's something like astronomical like that. $6 million doesn't seem like a final job in and out type of thing. So that's what kind of caught me by surprise. But it's like, right, where we're going, it could be the seed money, not only to stretch it as far as we need it to, but also to build something legitimate. And so he was able to kind of convince Nadia he's making moves against Hayek. Which even she says, hey, Hayek finds out about this, he will kill us both. But it's like, yeah, he won't. We'll disappear. And I'm thinking in the end, she may side with Hayek. Because I think it's interesting, because all the stuff Nadia later on says about Armand, like, oh, you're someone who, like, you can never have a common man's life. All you care about is the money, the power, the status, and the position. She's like, so before you go blowing everything up, keep that in mind. Like, are you really sure you're ready to do this? I honestly think the same thing could be said of Nadia. I think, maybe she's able to say all that. Maybe that's what brought her and Armand together. Maybe at one point in time it was about love. But, like, her biggest issue was the way he handled things with Armand, and just kind of like, because she kind of snapped on him for just like, oh, you're just taking, like, the scraps that Armand's tossing your way. Like, you deserve more because you haven't really pushed for it and stuff. So, I mean, Armand knows it is true to some extent because it did make him pause. It made him go, damn, so he does recognize there is some truth in all of this. So, Because the sad thing is Noah was all settled up for the deal. I even love that he blew up Carlos. Carlos is like, I was like, whose car is that? Is that? I was like, no. I was like, at first I was like, no, that's not the vehicle that Nadia and Armand showed up in. And Carlos was like, that was my car. He's like, come on, buddy. It was a gas guzzler. I'm doing you a favor. So I'm like, poor Carlos. And even Armand's like, don't worry, man. I'll get you a new one. Don't worry about it. From the money they're going to make from this deal, but still. Then you have Garrett, who, let's not get it twisted. He might be a douchebag, but he's actually really good at his job. He ended up tracking the trucks that actually had Hayek's guns in it, so he narrowed it down to these different farms, but sadly they don't have a warrant to check any of them because all of it's circumstantial, and especially after, as she refers to as Melongate, that whole debacle, he lost a little credibility, so his hunch isn't going to be good enough this time. So what does he decide to do? Sneak on the farm. I was like, at first I was like nervous for him, like, oh, you're going to get caught. It's like, well, I was like, they wouldn't straight up kill him. He's a Fed. But also at the same time, it's like, well, I was like, I wouldn't think the story wouldn't get rid of one of its main characters like that immediately. So luckily he was but because he was there, he overheard the deal with Noah. And so he's like, all right, I know what's going down today. So he does what he planned on doing. I was like, he still hasn't really, because I was thinking that most of the episode, I was like, he still hasn't used Tony the way he said he's, never mind, here we go. So he's going to feed Tony information about her keeping an eye on a guy named Noah. So it's like, right, we're keeping an eye on Armand and Noah. Just text us whenever Armand decides to leave the place. Which sucks, because this doesn't just screw up Armand's plans, this screws up everyone's plans. Because also, because it's going to trickle out, because first and foremost, Armand needs the money, obviously, to disappear. Obviously, Tony needs the money to pay for the surgeries and stuff like that, because Armand offered. And obviously, she finally ended up telling, Marco about everything, which he's reluctant. I guess because, for one, he was getting the third degree because she's like, where'd you get the money? And he was like, why? Oh, because she was wondering if he got it from gambling. And he was like, can't you, either you trust me or you don't. Now he finds out, oh, she's been working. Like, oh, she didn't even want me to come here. Like, she had the money to I'm like, no, shut up. Like, I think that's just a moment where you go, Marco, shut up. No. The money that she has stashed away, you mean the money that's meant to be for your son, not just to bring you here? Like, shouldn't him getting help come first and foremost? But I can also get but I have to rescind my shut up, because I'm also like, I get it, as his father, you want to be there, but it almost felt like every time you turn around, Tony was reluctant. But I don't think it's just the Armand thing. I think it is, obviously the Armand thing is only a super recent situation. Like, this is probably this whole, like, oh, potentially having the money stashed away to do all that, to make it possible to get. The reason why she doesn't want him here is probably because of, like, well, it's complicated with everything that's going on in her life. Armand, Hayek, all that, and then Garrett, the FBI. But also, it's just like, I think she even said it herself, this isn't a great environment for her and her husband, because Marco, the gambling addict he is, Vegas, then you add in the fact is they haven't been in a good spot either, so. But even Fee kind of told him straight up, like, I know you might not like it, but if you want my advice, put your pride aside and just accept this dude's help. If he's offering, because he's thinking like, oh, if he's offering, he's only offering because of one thing, which, yes, he does like Tony, but I think what Nadia said is true. Like, he wants to help out Luca. Like, I think there is a personal element to this of, like, yes, he cares for Luca, he cares for Tony, so there's a bit of that, but there is a part of him that wants to do some good. He wants to be a good person. Like, the way Tony looked at him as not a terrible person, like, he wants that to continue. And I think maybe somewhere in his own mind, he wants to prove to himself that, no, I'm not this terrible person, that I can be a good person too. So, once again, like, people aren't just so black and white. There are so many layers and shades of gray in between. And I think all this kind of feels into the shades of gray that Armand is. Like, one person isn't just one thing. People are just so many things at once. So many things culminate into making you who you are. But circling back to it, like, other than all that, what I also think is going to be an issue is, well, the longer Armand sits on the guns, the longer it gives the FBI to actually get a warrant for the guns. Two, that's going to be doubly screwy, because Hayek's eventually going to wonder, hey, where are my guns? And, before the FBI ends up taking them, he'll probably get a little antsy and is like, yo, tell me where my guns are. So if they get lucky, well, he's already got people watching the guns. Granted, they don't have a warrant, so they can't jump on it immediately. So if Hayek starts asking questions too soon, then maybe he'll ask Armand to get the guns, and that kind of screw the pooch out of getting the money. But then it also would make it so the FBI technically couldn't do anything because it'd be illegal for them to do anything because they don't have the actual warrant to go after those guns. So they probably wouldn't be able to actually act. So it just depends on how this all flows and turns out, because if those guns get taken, it's going to fall back on Armand in the biggest way. Then we're definitely going to see what Nadia decides to do, because she might try and sell him up river, because it's like, yeah, this is Armand's. I just had that inkling, especially now that Nadia has some idea that Armand has feelings for Tony, that she might start it's like, right, you don't have my best interest at heart. I got to look out for me. So she might try and do stuff that make a move that benefits her in the eyes of Hayek, even if it means kind of screwing Armand over. We'll see. I think kind of like Marco and Tony, Nadia and Armand aren't in a good place. And it seems like they already kind of weren't even before Tony came into the picture. Because, like, once again, at Hayek's daughter's wedding, he was like, yeah, go ahead and do what you want to. You always do. So there was some venom behind those words, because even Nadia was almost just kind of like bothered by it. But it seemed like there were some underlying issues already. And so we'll see whether or not there were, maybe they'll talk about whether or not there were actual issues. But I feel like some of the stuff that's coming up, it's been bubbling beneath the surface, and I think it's just finally boiling over finally. Obviously, it's just, who knows? If Tony had never told, she had to. Like, there was no way you're going to be like, okay, like, I came up with this $300,000, maybe $400,000 for Luca's surgeries. Like, how'd you do it? Like, you had to come up with that, because our only other choice was to go to Mexico. But if they did that, there would be no coming back. Which now Tony's like, well, because they can't do the deal with Noah, it's a situation of like, right, Armand doesn't have the money necessary to give her to pay for the surgery, so that kind of has to be put off. And especially because things are getting worse for Luca, he needs the surgery now. Especially because they found a donor, Dara, this episode, and so obviously she even asked, like, oh, where are we getting? It's like, oh yeah, we're working on it. I thought you said Luca needed surgery. So it's like, yeah, but we're it's like, right, because they're trying to decide last minute whether it's going to be something official above board, or whether this is going to be like, because also, like, if you do it in Mexico, Dara's probably not going to be too keen about that. But I guess she'll be like, oh, this is where we're having it. And then it ends up being kind of a bit of a shady position. Like, she might back out at the last second. So you would probably preferably want it to be like the one that's super expensive, just because it put her mind at ease and make her more. She already wants to do it upon meeting Luca, but it's still like, people can always change their mind, so. But Marco definitely didn't help the situation, because him going to confront, and obviously Armand was just kind of like, hey, listen to your wife, your son's a great kid. He's like, yeah, I don't need you to tell me how great my son is. Like, okay, bro, just calm down. I just want to help out. And he's just like, yeah, but what is the reason why you're trying to help out? It's like, he did let his pride get the best of him, because I think it is purely from the situation of some strange man who he believes there's something going on between him and Tony, even though, yes, they did kiss, but they haven't slept together. So there's truth to that, but there is feelings there that neither one of them is really willing to admit. But it's his pride. It's like, no, this is my wife. Also, this is my son. I want to be able to do stuff to support them. She shouldn't have to go to some stranger. She shouldn't be mixed up with some criminals and stuff like that. Just, I should be able to help out. She should have turned to me, but she didn't. She went to you. So I think it struck his pride as a man and as a husband, as a father, and all that. So once again, Fiona was like, put your pride aside. And even I think even Armand saying, like, hey, I understand, if I was in your position, I'd put my pride aside and accept help from someone, even if it was from someone like me. So, and having Armand say that probably dug a little deeper. So by the time Tony gets back afterwards, it's like, oh, cool, Marco's gone. I'm like, okay, this is a little, and then all of a sudden, oh, he took the 20,000, which is garbage on his move, and he's drinking and he's gambling because in his mind it's going to be thinking of, once I make all this money, it's going to be good. I will pay for it. I mean, obviously Armand couldn't pull through anyway, so it's a good thing I gamble. Like, even if he wins, it doesn't matter. It's still the shittiest possible thing you could do because that money is the lifeline. It's meant to be the $20,000 to give Dara to pay for your son's new liver, and you're gambling it away. Like, it's too high risk. Even if you come out and be like, oh my God, like, because either it's going to go one of two ways. He's going to be so lucky that he is going to win, and he's going to be like, oh, it's all going to work out anyway, which I doubt it, but hey, there's always this slim possibility. So it's going to be like, oh, who cares? I've won anyway, so why are we so caught up in what ifs? It's like, no, the what if still matters, because what if you did lose? We would have lost all that money, you bastard. Like that, you know? But then, two, you add in, if he does lose, that's the biggest no. Damn it, considering, like, I mean, I'm sure Armand may be able to cover the $20,000, not, like, the hundreds of thousands it would have cost above board, but it's still, like, I don't know, man. It's a tough position, and it's like I said, I'm sure him drinking too isn't helping that. Like, I don't know if that's one of his vices along with gambling, but it's just all of this. He probably went somewhere, started drinking, then he started getting that itch and started justifying it and saying, I take the money, I'll be able to, because he's probably also thinking like, well, it's Armand's money, so like, it's not like it's Tony's money, so he probably feel a little more guilty, but it's like gambling his money, and then he'll probably justify like, well, you'll get more from him or whatever. Like, I hope he doesn't say some stupid crap like that. I don't know, man. There's so many different ways this could go wrong. I mean, because once again, we also haven't touched on like how he really did get his visa, like where he got the money. Like, maybe that's even more reason why he's doing this. Maybe it has something to do with how he got here, the money he paid off with the visa. It's like, no, you send me there. Maybe he gave them half the money. He's like, I'll give you the other half when I get there. So he's probably in debt, and he's probably going to gamble away the last $20,000 that they have. So it's probably going to be like, cool. He probably still owes some money. Probably might owe some money on top of this $20,000 because he might be like spending some of that on credit, being like, I got you, just like, let me borrow some money. Like, in my gambling can send you spiraling down a very dark hole. I don't know. We'll see. Like, this is just where my mind is, because my mind immediately goes like to the worst place possible. So I'm just assuming like things are going to get extremely, extremely bad. So we'll have to see whether or not that ends up being the case. Hopefully things work out, but I'm just like, Tony's not that lucky. Like, it's just like things are going to fall apart. And like I said, the biggest question is going to be how the Garrett situation plays out. It is interesting that he's hanging out with Russo, and it's just kind of like, maybe that had come up before. I didn't remember that I don't think it came up that they were former partners, but it's like, okay, so, you know, they're going to go hang out, like, oh, play human Jenga and stuff like that. So you're like, okay, something's going to happen there. I'm sure that's going to complicate things, having, you know, if anything ever happened between you and your boss. But it's like, it's just kind of like a victory lap, because like, we're doing good. Like I said, we'll see how the like gun situation plays out, whether or not Hayek's like, oh, I need my guns now, where are they? And so Armand is forced to give them to him before Garrett makes a move on him, which I think would be the better outcome in that regard. But sadly, it would screw over both Tony and Armand, because this is supposed to be his exit strategy. So we shall ultimately see how all of this ultimately ends up playing out going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.